Your thoughts on the game tonight? Your thoughts on the game tonight? Obviously, a tough loss last night.
It's time for Blazers Game Day with Brendan Slaughter. Blazers Game Day is presented by Coors Light, Mountain Cold Refreshment. Choose chill, celebrate responsibly. 620 Rip City Radio, your home of the Portland Trailblazers.
Good afternoon, Trailblazers fans. Welcome into Blazers Game Day, where your Portland Trailblazers are at the TD Garden for a matchup with the Celtics in Boston. I'm your host, Brendan Slaughter, getting you ready for tonight's matchup, or should I say this afternoon's matchup for those of you here in Portland. Filling in for Chris Burkhart. Appreciate you guys spending part of your afternoon with me as we get you ready for the Blazers and the Celtics. Blazers Game Day is presented by Rocky Mountain Coors Light, Mountain Cold Refreshment. Choose chill, celebrate responsibly. Chad Doing will have the Trailblazers pregame starting at 3 o'clock, and the voice of the Trailblazers, Travis Demers, will have the call starting at 4 p.m. Portland Trailblazers come into this matchup 28-34, good for 12th in the Western Conference against the Celtics, who come in at 43-18, second in the Eastern Conference, again, over at the Boston, or should I say TD Garden. I wish it was still the Boston Garden. Everybody would. That was just the coolest name ever. But nevertheless, a lot to get into here on Blazers Game Day. We're also going to be catching up with Rip City Radio Trailblazers correspondent from the Rose Garden Report, Sean Hyken, at 2:30. Catch up with Sean, see what he thinks of the Blazers having a pretty good start to this road trip and really, taking care of business against the teams they need to take care of. We're still waiting to see, kind of that signature marquee win for the Trailblazers. It was right there for the taking against Cleveland. Came up a little bit short, but two more marquee teams present themselves for wins this weekend, or this road trip, I should say, with the Celtics and then the Thunder coming up. So we'll be getting into the Celtics tonight. There may be a better chance for Portland tonight with a few Celtics that are on the injury report, may or may not play. We'll be checking into that as the show goes along as well. But let's go ahead and take a look back last time out for your Trailblazers. It was a 119-102 win over the Philadelphia 76ers in Philly. It was Portland's fifth win in their last 6 games as they continue to chase a play-in berth. We'll be talking a little bit about that later, but some news could be coming out of Dallas, who currently occupies the 10 seed that could be, interesting for Portland. So we'll be talking about that a little bit later in the show as well. But back to the 76ers game. Portland ended up taking the game 119-102, as I mentioned, but it wasn't necessarily, great early. Portland started out cold from the field, found a bit of a groove, and were kind of right there with the Sixers after one. The Sixers led after one, 32-29. Blazers were, just about, 50% from the floor, but just 4 of 12 from 3 in that first quarter. Just, not quite as sharp as they wanted to be, so to speak. Philly also came out and took the second quarter too and led 61-56 at the break. And, going into this game knowing there was no Joel Embiid, that halftime score was a little surprising. But once you started to see the Blazers come out in the second half and really play their game, get their guys going, we saw the final result, which was a comfortable win for the Trailblazers. And again, we talked about their ability to continue to battle. They were only down 5 at the break, and they trailed by as many as 12. That first half really Neither team felt in the rhythm. The game was up for grabs, and then Anthony Simons stole the show in the second half. He heated up in that third quarter and helped them break this one open throughout the course of the second half. Simons had 12 points in the first 5 minutes of the third quarter, finished with 14 total in the quarter. And, that explosion was definitely big for the Trailblazers, who needed to, get back on top in the points column, and then obviously continue to build from there. They ended up dominating that third quarter, 35-20. The Blazers scored the first 7 points of that quarter, obviously took a lead early, had a 20-7 third quarter run, and most importantly, Anthony Simons, 27 points after 3 quarters. He ended up having a big night for the Trailblazers. They took the fourth quarter as well, 28-21, and Blazers ended up emptying their bench in this one, getting the biggest win margin of the road trip, 119-102. And again, this was a result that I think, despite it being on the road, it was a result that I think many expected the Blazers to win without Embiid and, the Sixers having, their injuries that they've had this year, but still have a squad, right? And I think it was interesting that we saw, Andre Drummond turning back the clock in that game, and his best scoring output in 5 years with 25 points, help pace them in this game. And, for the most part, Philly is playing with an interesting deck. And like I said, it was so funny. And we had that great call from Travis Demers. Like, if you would have told me, a couple years ago that Andre Drummond would still be not only relevant, but capable of scoring 25 points in 2025, I probably would have been like, oh, really? What kind of a situation? So, that's how it's going to be sometimes and the way it goes. Justin Edwards also had 16 points for the 76ers. Looking at some team stats from the night. We'll get to that momentarily. But we mentioned Anthony Simons, who had the big win over the Sixers, or big performance in the win over the Sixers. He had 34 points finished in that game. Let's hear from Anthony Simons postgame.
Your thoughts on the game tonight? Obviously a tough loss last night, able to bounce back and get this one tonight.
I think we was playing well. Played a pretty good defense throughout the whole game. I think that's what helped us, especially when we were struggling offensively. And we just got hot at the right time and was able to pull away at the end.
What were you guys able to, or what did you talk about at the half? Because it seemed like you guys came out with a little more focus, or at least you're able to turn things around in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, Chauncey, talked to us in a pregame meeting about, reading the game, understanding what they're doing by halftime in the fourth quarter. So I think, a lot of us was trying to pay attention to what they was trying to accomplish on both ends of the floor. And so we took note of it, and we kind of adjusted in the second half, and I think that's what helped us.
Go ahead. No.
Dwap Reith coming off the bench, staying ready. What did you think of his performance tonight?
Dwap was playing great. Obviously, not been playing. Staying ready at all times, being professional and coming in, doing his job when his number is called. So, we all know what Dwap is capable of, and each and every time we know we're gonna get the best out of him for sure.
It seems like you guys got a little bit of something for everyone tonight. You had a 3-point game. Shaden and Donovan both get double-doubles. Two almost had a double-double. It seems like you guys are really getting kind of broad production from the roster right now.
Yeah, I think we get a kind of an understanding of where each and every player fits on the team and on a night-to-night basis. And, we always adjust based off, how the night is going. So I think we're doing a way better job of that. Other than just kind of, freelance, we kind of understand of what each and every player need to accomplish to be successful.
You guys are 5 games into this trip. You got 2 games left, and you got a tough Boston team and then a tough Oklahoma City. What do you guys need to do to be able to go into Boston and get that one?
Strap on our boots.
Yeah.
That's it. Get ready to go. Fight. You know what I mean? And obviously, championship team. We approach each and every game the same. We're gonna go out there and play the way we play, and we live with the results.
That was Trailblazers guard Anthony Simons following the win over the 76ers on Monday. And you got to love, how he's like, got to get our boots on, get ready to go to Boston because, obviously reigning champs and, Boston presents a lot of problems across the court for the Blazers. And we'll be talking a little bit more about that when we get into the Celtics next segment after we hear from Coach. But just a couple other notes from the win over the 76ers. Like we said, the Blazers now 4-1 on the road trip. They're guaranteed to return back home with a winning record on the road trip and still have a chance to add a little bit more to the win column. Again, with, obviously super tough teams in Boston and Oklahoma City, but with the way the Blazers have been playing and, the fact that they've got, Western Conference Defensive Player of the Month and Tumani Kamara and Anthony Simons is heating up, it's a lot of a process to get there. But at this point, I think the Blazers are kind of that team that somebody who needs to get a win isn't thrilled to play. I think it's like, oh man, we got to go play the Trailblazers. They're not the Trailblazers of a couple years ago, and I think that growth is quantifiable. So that's definitely something that's going to be exciting to see down the stretch of the regular season as the Blazers continue to chase that play-in berth. But again, a couple more things from the win over the Sixers. The Blazers dominated the boards, 61-43, had a +8 advantage on the O boards as well. Also won the paint, 68-52. And I think most importantly, after Philly kind of had a really good first half, the Blazers locked things down in the second half. I mean, we talked 32 and 29 for Philly in their first two quarters. Their last two quarters, just 41 points. So that's a big improvement, especially even coming from the Cleveland game. I know, Philly a little shorthanded, didn't have their full complement of guys, obviously. But nevertheless, it's still, an NBA team and still a quantifiable growth for a young team getting better defensively. Couple other things there, too. Shaedon Sharpe finished with a double-double with 20 points and 11 boards. Love the way that he's continued to play lately for the Blazers. The three-point shot, still want to get a little bit more consistent, but he's just been more of a scoring threat recently, and that's been good to see. You continue to see him growing, and then to add a double-double with, rebounds for a guard, always, something you like to see, and then also chipped in 5 assists. So real stat-padding game for Shaedon Sharpe. Donovan Clingan with 13 and 13. Love seeing DC getting 30 minutes in a game like this. Continues to going to grow as a player, and I'm excited to see what DC can ultimately bring as he continues to get all this valuable starting experience down the stretch. Duop Reith off the bench with 13 points. We talked a little bit last week about who how Chauncey Billups would handle the kind of big man rotation with DeAndre Ayton and Robert Williams III on the bench or on the shelf, I should say, due to injury. And with that, we've seen obviously DC start, and that's how it should be. But, we've seen a mix of Jabari Walker. We've also seen some Duop Reith. And I think, it's interesting to kind of see how Chauncey's moving those chess pieces around based on matchups. And, considering that, the Blazers were on a back-to-back and down a few guys, it was a solid bounce-back win over the Sixers. I mean, you take wins where you can get them in the NBA, and again, as the Blazers continue to need to stack up all the wins they can get at this point, it's definitely something that you like to see, and you like to see the Blazers taking care of business against a team they should beat. It was a bit of a slow first half, but they showed their mettle in the second half and ultimately got the 119-102 victory. So we'll go ahead and take a quick break here on Trailblazers Game Day. When we come back, we're going to head to the Coach's Corner, hear from Chauncey Billups. We'll also maybe hear from Shaedon Sharpe following that win over the 76ers. And then we'll be hearing from Sean Highkin a little bit later in the show as we'll be catching up with him. Talk a little bit about the Celtics tonight. I wanted to get his thoughts on Toumani Camara, named Defensive Player of the Month in the Western Conference. All that, more to come here on Blazers Game Day with Brendan Slaughter.
everybody played well. Everybody played hard. We played for one another. It was just an incredible team win for us.
They came out of halftime looking almost more energized, with more focused, or I guess with a goal. What was your message?
Yeah. I just told them to hang in. I thought we was in good shape. Didn't play particularly great, but our defense was good enough, and we shared the ball. We were getting pretty good shots. We really were. We just wasn't knocking them down. I said, don't get bored with it. Just don't turn over the ball. Do a good job rebounding, and we'll be in good shape. And we came out with actually more energy, and we needed it.
Talk about sticking with it too, Coach. 68 points in the paint tonight for you guys. It seems like 68 points in the paint tonight. It seems like you guys were able to get in there and make this.
Yeah, we one of our points of emphasis in the game were trying to attack the paint, knowing that they were a really aggressive defense. If we can get past the line of scrimmage, we felt like we'll be okay. And we did so. And we just kept attacking, and we did a good job of converting today.
You've talked about when Shaedon's locked in on the defensive end, it affects his offensive game in a positive fashion. How did you feel like he did defensively tonight?
Really good. I thought his defense was good all night. I know he was disappointed in himself a little bit, giving up some big baskets last night, and this is how you respond. You come in, you're completely locked in. I think offense is easy for Shaedon. He can make it look very easy. The defensive side is totally different. When he's locked in defensively, it makes his offense even easier. So I thought he was great. Career high rebounding. We need those rebounds in a major way. I think he's maybe the most athletic guy in basketball. So I need him going to get those tough rebounds, and he did that tonight.
Rebounding. Go ahead,
Obviously, Denny struggled with his shot. You like the way that he sort of didn't let it, stop his game and all.
Yeah, I thought Denny was forcing a little bit early. I took him out of the game in the first half, and I just pulled him over. And I said, Denny, just relax a little bit. Let the game come to you. Know that you got guys out there that's willing to, they can take a lot of pressure off of you. He said, Coach, you're right. He accepted it, and he just played the right way from then on. But that's what a team is all about, and I was happy that it's always somebody different every night for us, which I think makes us difficult, to prepare for.
A word on Toom's game, offensively and defensively, and the job is done on Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah, he was the normal two. We try to get him to not shut guys down, but at least just make it difficult for them, make their life hard. And I thought he did a really good job on Tyrese tonight. I know Tyrese was really banged up. I hope he's okay. After that fall, I was worried about him. But, praise okay. But, yeah, Two did a really good job of just making it difficult, trying to fight through screens, fight over screens. Tyrese had some really good looks early, and he didn't knock him down, so you knew he was playing a little hurt. But Two did his normal thing. He just made somebody's life really hard.
We mentioned before the game that obviously Donovan was frustrated fouling out yesterday. Tonight, it kind of turned into a battle royale down low for the bigs. How great of an experience is that for him right now?
It's just it's a part of his development. I thought last night what he felt worse about today was he just felt he let the team down, not being able to be out there more. But this is how you learn, and Donovan is just such a winner, that he cares about that. I thought he did a really good job today of being focused on, not fouling, but not putting himself in the position to do it. Staying vertical the whole time. Could have blocked a few more shots, but I said I'd rather stay in the game and just defend the rim. It might not block it. So that's all we needed him to do, was be solid, and he was definitely that.
That was Portland Trailblazers head coach Chauncey Billups following the 119-102 win over the 76ers. And, there was a couple really good points that Chauncey made in there. And, I liked his moment when he talked about, Denny Avdia and how after a big performance against Cleveland, Chauncey could, where he was 30-plus, Chauncey could tell he was pushing or pressing things a little bit against the 76ers and kind of had that moment. And, Denny, obviously acknowledged it too. So you love to see kind of moments like that for sure. And then, he talked about, just the response, right? It wasn't necessarily sharp early, but the Blazers, were able to play their best basketball in the second half. And I particularly liked how, if I told Chris Burkhardt the other day, I was like, if I, had a dollar for now every media member that's, starting to ask Chauncey about just how impactful Tumani Kamara is on the defensive end of the floor. I mean, it's the secret is out, folks. Not like it's maybe not been out for a couple months now, and it's really out now that he was Western Conference Defensive Player of the Month in February. But Tumani Kamara, man, he is, something to behold, and I think that's going to be something tremendous for the Blazers is that, that they continue to grow with him in the years to come. And I think back and go, we're a broken record, but back again, how important was it to get him added in that Dame deal that ultimately brought DeAndre Ayton and him to Portland? So go back. Somebody in the Portland Trailblazers front office was definitely playing chess when someone else was playing checkers. Before we take our next break and get to Sean Highkin, let's hear from Shaedon Sharpe following the win over the 76ers.
Your thoughts on the game tonight? Obviously a tough loss last night, able to bounce back and get this one tonight.
I think we were playing well. Played a pretty good defense throughout the whole game. I think that's what helped us, especially when we were struggling offensively. And, we just, got hot at the right time and was able to pull away at the end.
What were you guys able to, or what did you talk about at the half? Because it seemed like you guys came out with a little more focus, or at least you're able to turn things around in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, Chauncey, talked to us in a pregame meeting about, reading the game, understanding what they're doing by halftime in the fourth quarter. So I think, a lot of us was trying to pay attention to what they was trying to accomplish on both ends of the floor. And so we took note of it, and we kind of adjusted in the second half, and I think that's what helped us.
Go ahead. No.
Dwop Reith coming off the bench, staying ready. What did you think of his performance tonight?
Dwop was playing great. Obviously, not been playing. Staying ready at all times, being professional and coming in, doing his job when his number is called. So, we all know what Dwop is capable of, and each and every time we know we're gonna get the best out of him for sure.
It seems like you guys got a little bit of something for everyone tonight. You had the 3-point game. Shaedon and Donovan both get double-doubles. Two almost had a double-double. It seems like you guys are really getting kind of broad production from the roster right now.
Yeah, I think we get kind of an understanding of where each and every player fits on the team and on a night-to-night basis. And, we always adjust based off, how the night is going. So I think we're doing a way better job of that. Other than just kind of, freelance, we kind of understand of what each and every player need to accomplish to be successful.
You guys are 5 games into this trip. You got 2 games left. You got a tough Boston team and then a tough Oklahoma City. What do you guys need to do to be able to go into Boston and get that one?
Strap on our boots. Yeah. That's it. Get ready to go. Fight. You know what I mean? And obviously, championship team. We approach each and every game the same. We're gonna go out there and play the way we play, and we live with the results.
Shay, I know you guys wanted that one yesterday in Cleveland. You bounced back with a win tonight. What went into this one?
Just effort, playing together, playing hard, and just having fun, and paying attention to the schemes. Really paid attention to the schemes today, and just play really hard. So that's what it came down to.
It seemed like there was a switch in energy at halftime. What was the message from Coach then?
I'll just keep playing the right way, playing together, playing hard, playing fast. We knew what we had to do, so, we just listened to coaches and, just try to give more energy, and, we got the dub today, so.
And you had some really incredible shots there in the second half. Was your goal to be aggressive offensively?
I think my goal is always to be aggressive, while also getting my teammates involved. I just came out second half and tried doing that, and, yeah.
What did you think of Anthony really putting the team on his back there in that third quarter?
Yeah, he's tough. Every shot, the goal must look so big for him. Every shot he hit. For him to do that and really help our team, get on the scoreboard, really helped us.
Donovan with a double-double, nice bounce back for him. How much does it help you guys when he's crashing the boards like that, creating extra shots?
It's good. It's really good. We encourage him, and we encourage him to do that, and just continue being that guy to really help us on the boards.
And finally, how nice was it to see Dwop Reith come out and have a big game like he did?
It was really good. Happy for him, but we encourage him to keep doing what he's doing. So.
That was Shaedon Sharpe following the 119-102 win over the 76ers. We'll go ahead and take a quick break here coming up to catch up with Sean Highkin. But before we do, let's go ahead and list out the injury report as it currently stands. DeAndre Ayton, Matisse Thybulle, Robert Williams III will all be out for tonight for the Trailblazers. Jeremy Grant, questionable with right knee tendonitis. But here is the key. The Celtics injury report. Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis are doubtful. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum are questionable. Peyton Pritchard, shout out to local product here, and Derek White are probable. So we'll be seeing if Sean has an update on that or if we see anything else come through social media. You've got Blazers Game Day with Brendan Slaughter here on 620 Rip City Radio. Welcoming you back into Blazers Game Days. We're getting you ready for the Celtics Blazers from TD Garden coming up at 4 o'clock. Chad Doing will have the network pregame starting at 3, and Travis Demers the call at 4. We're joined now by Sean Highkin, our Rip City Radio correspondent from the Rose Garden Report. Sean, long time no talk, man. How you been?
I'm doing all right, man. How about you?
Doing good, doing good. Always like to look out my window and see that it's a sunny day here in the Pacific Northwest. I think we've been getting kind of fake spring, I think, a little bit now. But hey, I always like to have the sun shining. And, obviously, too, the Blazers been playing much better lately. You and I last caught up ahead of the Brooklyn matchup. Portland's since gone 2-1. They took care of business against the Nets and 76ers. And then that tough loss to Cleveland. Despite that loss, it has to be encouraging that the Blazers were right there against the best in the league, right?
Yeah, and I mean, that's really, again, they were up 18 at one point in the second half, and then they ended up going to overtime. That's a loss, especially against that caliber of team that, even though, they are pushing for the play-in, and these losses actually do matter to them right now. Like, you can't really be mad about that one.
No, and you talk about just the way that they were able to go toe-to-toe with Cleveland, and, obviously, Cleveland was minus Mitchell, but I still look at that as, one of the best in the NBA, and, compared to, the results we saw maybe at the beginning of the season if they played Cleveland, might have been a different story, too. One of the things that's been notable here in the last couple of days, Sean, is Toumani Camara getting named the NBA Defensive Player of the Month for February. How much does that showcase the respect he's starting to get across the league, and, what is his ceiling in that respect?
He's really starting to, and to your point, this award that he got yesterday, the Western Conference Defensive Player of the Month, this is just kind of the latest little bit of national recognition that he's gotten. But over the last month or so, you've started to see a lot of, national outlets, whether it be like writers or podcasters or whoever, start to talk about him. And it's, you're starting to get that, he's starting to get that kind of recognition, and I think deservedly so. He's been the Blazers' best player all season.
Yeah, I think I when I saw that, and then saw he was nominated for the award before, it's almost kind of like it was, coming. But I feel like now, Sean, with this, if there was any, I really don't think there was much anymore, but if there was any secret of Toumani Camara, probably not much anymore, right?
He's now at the point where he's the guy where it's cool to say, hey, who's really underrated? Like to show that you actually know more than just like the stars. He's like the guy that it's cool to name check to show that you're like a real basketball fan. Like that's kind of the spot that he kind of occupies now within the league.
Oh, and just hearing you say that is cool because I 100% agree. And then I just think back. I'm like, I mentioned it earlier in Game Day, Sean. It's almost like, the Blazers decision makers were playing chess when, someone else were playing checkers when he was that, kind of looked at as the throw-in piece in that, Damian Lillard, DeAndre Ayton trade. And I think turned out might be one of the shrewdest moves the organization's made.
Well, really, the two biggest moves that they've made were that one and then the trade this summer for Denny Avdia, which has also kind of worked out the same way. Now, Avdia was a little bit more well-known when they brought him in than Camara was because he was a top 10 pick, and he was, at one point seen as like a guy with a lot of upside, but he was kind of an afterthought being in Washington, and so it raised some eyebrows that they gave up as much as they gave up for him. But, they get this front office now. We now have a track record of they have this ability to identify these types of guys that they think are really going to fit and really going to, maybe have more in them than they've shown so far. And, you saw that with Camara where, he hadn't ever played in the NBA, but, he was a 52nd overall pick and not really somebody that anybody gave that much thought to. And then you go, he gets, included in that trade with DeAndre Ayton, that's part of the greater Damian Lillard trade. And we're talking about him immediately as like a guy that the Suns regret including in that deal.
Yeah, I think as time goes on, obviously the Suns in that particular moment were wanting to, get stars as quickly as possible, but that, an all defensive player. And I could tell you, I'm sure you'd agree, Sean, I think just about every team in the NBA would like to have a Toumani Camara or Toumani Camara, exactly. So, that's high praise, and I think that's definitely going to be something to continue to watch. We're catching up with Sean Highkin from the Rose Garden Report here on Rip City Radio, Blazers Game Day, getting you ready for the Blazers Celtics. We've seen Chauncey Billups experiment a little bit with the big man minutes behind Donovan Clingan with, Rob Williams, DeAndre Ayton on the shelf. Were you surprised to kind of see more Duop Reith alongside Jabari in kind of that backup small ball 5-ish kind of role?
I think they just kind of figured they needed some sort of shooting and some sort of spacing, and that's really the thing that WAP is going to give you. He's not, if you want someone who's going to rebound, you're going to put in Jabari in that spot. If you want someone who's going to be able to shoot, then that might be the way that you go. It's just. I mean, they do very, very different things. So I think it's just kind of matchup based. Against a team like the Celtics, where the Celtics shoot a ton of threes, and that's kind of how you have to kind of play that game in order to beat the Celtics. I wouldn't be surprised if we see WAP a lot again tonight.
You mentioned the Celtics, and I'm curious too. Is obviously they had an injury report listed for this game, Sean. That obviously we're waiting for the update to see, but some big names that could be either out or doubtful or questionable. And we've talked about this before, where we've seen an opposing team maybe not have their big stars, and Portland doesn't quite attack it the way that they could, maybe let their guard down a little bit. How do they guard against that if, again, looking at the report here, the pregame one, Drew Holiday and Porzingis were doubtful, Jaylen Brown and Tatum were questionable, and then Pritchard and White were probable. I mean, do you think that could have an impact on Portland's ability to try to steal one in the Garden tonight?
So just an update on that. We've actually gotten the official word on all of those guys from the Celtics, and Drew, Porzingis, and Tatum are out. Jaylen Brown, Peyton Pritchard, and Derek White are in. So that's as of like 5 minutes ago that just came in.
See, this is why we love having Sean Hyken on the radio, folks. He breaks all that down. But I guess with that, what is kind of your takeaway from having some of those guys out, because those are some of Boston's biggest pieces.
Well, you do have to guard against the idea of thinking, oh, well, they have their best player out, so we could, this should be an easy matchup. Infamously that happened earlier in the season against Utah with Lauri Markkanen being out, and also like right before the All-Star break, that game in Minnesota where Anthony Edwards didn't play and they still lost that game. So, you have to guard against that, but it certainly doesn't hurt to have, the best player on the Celtics, who's, arguably a top 5 player in the league, is probably one of the top MVP candidates this season, not be playing. Like that's certainly not going to hurt their chances to take this game. And I think between this game tonight and the last game of the road trip on Friday in Oklahoma City, you gotta, if this play-in thing is going to become realistic, and I do think it is realistic now because, the Suns are in kind of a free fall. The Mavericks just had that Kyrie Irving injury news come out yesterday. The Kings are without Domantas Sabonis for at least the next little bit. It is realistic for the Blazers to actually make a push here, and I think it's a possibility that they could make the play-in, but you got to get one of these next 2 games, the Boston game tonight or the Oklahoma City game on Friday. You got to get one of those 2 before they come home for a little while, just to, because they have a pretty tough schedule coming up as far as they after this road trip they've got another game against the Celtics, they got another game against the Cavs, they've got Denver, they've got the Knicks, they've got the Lakers, they've got the Warriors. They have some of these really good teams coming up. You got to win at least a few of these, in addition to taking care of some of the lottery teams that they've been able to take care of the last few weeks or so. So this certainly would be a good opportunity for them tonight with a bunch of the Celtics' best players out to be able to get this one. But as we've seen, it's far from a guarantee that just because a team's best players are out that these guys can just beat them.
No, and I 100% agree, and that's great points there, Sean. And that was going to be my next and last questions. We're catching up with Sean Hyken from the Rose Garden Report, getting you ready for Trailblazers Celtics coming up at 4:00 from the TD Garden. But I was going to mention Dallas because I think we talked about it before the Brooklyn games. Like, Phoenix looked to be a little bit more, within obviously they are in the win-loss standings, and I think Phoenix has kind of been a little bit more of a holding pattern. But the news in Dallas is fascinating to me, and whether or not, maybe AD gets shut down or any number of things, and to your point, they're still 4 games back in the loss column, so you would probably need to pick up some wins against bigger team or against, some of the good teams you play. Could you see Dallas kind of punting on the year?
They probably should do that. I mean, I don't know the exact specifics of Anthony Davis's injury, but it seems pretty similar to that core muscle thing that Dame had a few years ago that he ended up having a surgery on. And so, at this point, with they have so many other guys out, like Daniel Gafford is out now, like Derek Lively has been out, and now this Kyrie injury is just completely devastating for them, because Kyrie was playing so well for them both before and after the Luka trade. and now he's done for the year. Like, I don't really know what the Mavericks might not have any other options but to, tell AD, hey, let's maybe not come back this year and, try again next year. That might be where it's headed. Yeah.
I mean, and I'll leave you with this, Sean, because I think it's just so entertaining too. Is again, appreciate your time, but like, if you were to tell a Mavericks fan back in before the Luka trade where they would be on March 5th, 2025, would they have believed you?
Well, this happened a couple of years ago when, right after the Mavs first traded for Kyrie, they were kind of on the bubble of being in the play-in or not, and they just shut everybody down and blatantly tried to game the. So it's been done before, but yeah, when you have a guy as good as Luka, you don't think that they're going to, be in the position that they're in. But as we've seen, I didn't think anybody would have believed that they were going to trade Luka to the Lakers just out of the blue a month ago either. So, you can never really predict any of this stuff.
No, it's fascinating. And again, Sean, appreciate your time and look forward to catching up next time, maybe before the OKC game later in the week, my man.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's Sean Highkin from the Rose Garden Report. Always appreciate getting a chance to catch up with Sean on game day. We seem to have such great conversations, and I just love the knowledge that he's able to bring. And there's I wholeheartedly agree with Sean. We'll be talking about that in our cold hard facts. Let's get into them. All right. First cold hard fact, I wholeheartedly agree with what Sean Highkin was just saying. The Blazers need a marquee win on this road trip. Sure, it's great to go 4-1, and that's nothing to hang your hat about. But if you can go, maybe 5-2 on this road trip and say, hey, we beat Boston. We beat Boston in the Garden, or we beat, OKC in OKC. And I think though either one of those two would be tremendous, wins for the Blazers to kind of have a feather in their cap. And like Sean was saying, with the updated report and, the Celtics being down, a few guys tonight, that presents a big opportunity. But he also mentioned you got to guard against it and realize these are still the, reigning champs despite not having, some pieces. And for the most part, they're lesser used pieces are going to come out knowing they need to fill it up tonight. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on. Another cold hard fact, as we mentioned, with the unfortunate injury news in Dallas, the Mavericks could be trending towards the lottery rather than the 10th position they're in. Only Dallas and Phoenix are ahead of Portland in the play-in standings. The Blazers are just 4 games back of Dallas for 10th, half a game back from Phoenix. Again, as we mentioned with Sean, not too concerned about Phoenix, but Dallas, if they decide to legit punt on the season and start stacking up L's, the Blazers need to win some games, of course, but like Sean said, the opportunity and potential is there. So that's another cold, hard fact. Last but not least, the Blazers will be rocking the Black City Edition uniforms with Rip City across the chest, while the Celtics will be wearing the white with green lettering Association Edition uniforms. We're going to take a quick break here on Blazers Game Day. When we get back, we'll be talking about the keys to the game, taking one more updated look at the injury report to remind you guys of who's out for tonight's game against the Blazers and Celtics. You've got Blazers Game Day with Brendan Slaughter.
What will it take for a Trailblazers victory tonight? Here's Brendan Slaughter with his keys to the game.
Welcoming you back into Blazers Game Day. Brendan Slaughter here, getting you ready for the Blazers and Celtics coming up here in just about an hour and 20 minutes. Chad Dewing will have the network pregame coming up at 3 o'clock, and your voice, the Trailblazers, Travis Demers, will have the call from the Garden starting at 4 o'clock. Let's go ahead and get into our keys to the game. Then, like I said, we're also going to take a quick look at the injury report, too, and remind you guys who maybe weren't listening earlier about the significant injuries for the Celtics tonight. And let's get into the keys to the game first. First up, got to take advantage of a beatable Celtic team. They are the reigning NBA champs for a reason, but they're shorthanded tonight. And as we mentioned with Sean Highkin, Blazers can't come out thinking it's going to be easier or not have that same, zip and pop because, Boston's missing a couple of their bigger pieces. So you have to come out, put your foot on the gas, go try to win a road game in a big way, and a road game that, as Sean mentioned, would be a huge marquee win. So that's first up on keys to the game. Next, got to keep the guards hot. Shaedon and Anthony have been scoring great lately. Last game combining for 54 points. That goes back the last couple games. Those two kind of going, tit for tat as far as being able to, Anthony was good last game. Shaedon had a 30-point game recently. Those two have been seeing the ball well, so continue to shoot well amongst them. We'll throw Scoot in there too, as, he can be a reliable presence off the bench as well. But keep the guards hot. And even if the Celtics are down a few guys, you still have to fear their firepower, right? So getting into that injury report, no Jrue Holiday, no Jason Tatum, no Kristaps Porzingis. However, Peyton Pritchard, shout out local product here, Jaylen Brown and Derek White are all available for this matchup. So, again, no Jrue Holiday, no Jason Tatum. That's a terrific on-ball defender, and then arguably, as Sean said, an MVP in the league. And, Kristaps has been very good for Boston as well. But with Jaylen Brown being available, this is where you have to play good defense and have Toumani Camara give Jaylen Brown all he can handle. We just talked about Toumani's defensive prowess. I'd be surprised if he's not, squaring up with Jaylen Brown in this one, just with the way that, Tatum not being in, Jrue Holiday not being in. We can see how that ultimately shakes out. But those are definitely going to be the keys to watch in this one. And, more than anything else, I really do think that, this, like we discussed with Sean last segment, you need a marquee win on this road trip, and you've already done great things on this road trip. You've guaranteed you're going to come back to Portland with a winning record. The question is, can you get a little bit closer to that 10 seed that we've been seeing? So, again, it's possible. Does it require some work? Yeah, absolutely. But, again, you need to pick up some wins against teams that are above you in the standings to really start to make haste and put some pressure on Dallas, regardless of what they decide to do. So, ultimately, I think this is a game that you look at, Celtics being down 3 pretty big stars. Blazers have to go out and deliver. And I think that's going to be big for Portland in this one. If they can go out and deliver in this matchup, I think that's going to lead to a victory here in Boston. Again, easier said than done. Have to go out and actually prove it. But I like the Blazers' chances if they can come out, put their foot on the gas, and roll in this one. I hear the music, so that'll do it for me, folks. But don't fret. Chad Dewing has your network pregame coming up in just a few minutes, and the voice of the Trailblazers, Travis Demers, will have the call starting at 4. This has been Blazers Game Day with your host, Brendan Slaughter. We'll be talking to you post-game for the 5th quarter, presented by Coors Light, as we're hopefully breaking down a Trailblazers win from Boston.